Hello and welcome to 2024. You are listening to The Audio, a podcast slash life audio journal for your one and only me, Hannah Wilmus. And I am just so stinking happy to be here with you guys. And no one might listen to this. I at least know my boyfriend Sam out there. Thank you so much for listening to this. You might be wondering why I'm holding my mic because it does have a clip. I just feel better this way. I feel like a real host out here. Basically, if you haven't seen already, I uploaded a different video. It's called The Visual. It's like the second or first part of each weekly series. You're going to see a little 2-3 minute video montage of a sort of my week. And then we're going to come on here to the audio and recap my week, talk through life stories. Let me give you some advice, maybe get some advice from you guys, get some opinions, and just kind of dive into life. I think I'm in a really unique situation where I'm like about to graduate college. I'm a college athlete. I play beach volleyball. I have a long distance boyfriend. My family isn't in the state I live in. I'm about to start real life, owning a home, getting towards having children, getting married. And I wanted something to take everyone along the ride for all my peeps who might live far and want to hear all about it. If you aren't one of the peeps, you are now, and I'm so happy to have you and reach out. Would love to connect and chit chat sometime because I think we learn most through others and through growing side by side with our community. And that's mainly why this is now a public forum, because I think you guys could learn from me and then I can in turn learn from all of you. So, for those of you that watched the visual, my week this week was crazy. I started out the week in Indiana. That's where my boyfriend lives, which we'll get back to later, Sam. And then I celebrated New Year's with him, celebrated out there, and then I flew to Vegas, which is just so random. I don't live there. I just flew to Vegas. Because my best friend Callie was able to pick me up in Vegas. And then we drove all the way to my house here in California. And this is where I go to school. This is where I live. I have some lovely roommates. My family doesn't live here, but this is where I'm going to school right now. And it is thebomb.com. If you've ever wondered, like, is California worth all the hype? No, not long term. Do not live here long term. But come out here, live for a few years, enjoy yourself, and then get the frick out of here because it is so crazy and it kind of sucks. But that was the start of my week. And then me and Callie got to spend so much quality time together. I hadn't seen her in 18 months, which is something we'll probably go down in a later route. But Callie was serving a mission and she was in Bolivia for 18 months. So I didn't see her for nearly 2 years, but she is my best friend. And being able to see her again and connect and just have time together for 3 days was so enjoyable. And you'll see that in the vlog. We just did so much. We went to basketball games, we ate pizza, we made spring rolls for the first time, which were delicious, by the way, and just really got to be in each other's company and kind of recap what we might have missed from one another. And then after that, starting on Friday morning, I had to report for my first beach team duty of the year, which was our team retreat. It's something we do at the start of every spring season. We all go stay at a house, we tell our life stories, we bond, we cook meals together, we go grocery shopping, we hot tub, we do it all. And it is just some of like the most draining 3 days of my life because it is so deeply emotional to hear everyone speak about their lives, but it's also so fruitful in surrounding yourself with like 15 of your best friends and just being able to like go at it with each other and have dance parties and hang out and like have no commitments within that because we're not in school. We all had to get the time off work. We have nothing to worry about except for like diving into one another and loving one another and committing to one another for the next 4 months of our season that's to come. And I think it's just a beautiful way to start our second part of our journey together as a team to go through that together. So with that, I was thinking about what I wanted my first podcast to be, and I was like, well, am I just gonna like talk about myself, or do I just like really dive into my week? Because I imagine that with each week that comes, I'll kind of like take an overarching concept and reflect on it and elaborate through that. So, what I decided to do this week is I felt that since telling my life story was such a huge part of my week and being able to hear other people's life stories, that it only seemed fitting that as I'm starting this vlog that I film what is my life story up until this point in time. And it is Sunday night the 7th. I start school, my last semester of college tomorrow. And I felt it would just be so appropriate to give you guys an intro both to me or to my friends who've maybe only been in portions of my life to hear like the nitty-gritty of it all. And obviously I can't get through everything in like this 1 hour, maybe less than that podcast. So you'll hear stories as time goes on that go deeper into my life. But I kind of wanted to give an overarching this is who I am, this is why I am what I am, and this is where I'm at right now, and this is where I'm growing from. So let's get into it. Oh my gosh, I should have gotten some water. I'm just a newbie. I didn't know what I was doing. Okay. My name formally is Johanna Marie Wilmus, and I was born in Colorado on September 9th of 2002, making me the ripe, wonderful age of 21. Drink responsibly. This is not an ad for drinking, nor do I necessarily hate it. But anyways, I was born to Brad and Sarah Wilmus, the most lovely, wonderful parents a girl could ask for. I also have an older brother. His name is Tanner. He's 23, and I love that freaking kid to death. He is truly my best friend. I think growing up, you and your siblings are like supposed to argue and not get along and like go through a phase where you hate each other, but me and Tanner didn't. We just loved each other from the jump. And of course we had our stupid little petty childish arguments about like who got to play computer games at the time or being in each other's space, but all in all, like Tanner and me really got along as kids, and that's transferred into today, and I know that will transfer into the future because I give a ton of credit to my parents. They raised us right, but me and Tanner also just we were good kids, to be honest. My parents got blessed. You're welcome, Brad and Sarah. If you're listening, I'm awesome and you want to buy me something or mail me some dinner or something, because I'm tired of cooking. But anyways, so life growing up was really, really normal. I went to public school my whole life. It was just me and my brother and my parents at home. My parents did have us young. My mom was 21 when she had my brother, so she was 23 when she had me. So we always had younger parents, which the biggest part of my life story that I think is so valuable and that I carry into today is the idea that it takes a village. And that's why I'm here doing this podcast in the first place, because my parents were young when they had us, and I'm not going to say that made them naive or they didn't know what they were doing, because they rolled with the punches and they got crap done. But they have had the same group of 20 friends since high school, and those people were also a huge hand in raising us alongside our family members, grandparents, everyone else in our lives. Like, everyone else also was a parent to me in one way or another. And of course, my parents were fully present and in the moment and raised us well. But I truly believe that I wouldn't be who I am today without the 30 extra people in my life that I get to call like aunts and uncles and really draw back to when I need some advice or some thoughts from them. So I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful that my parents introduced us to all these people at such a young age. Just because, yeah, they were huge, huge components of my life growing up. I don't remember a single weekend where we didn't hang out with someone and I wasn't around people consistently. And then that also meant that honestly, I was around alcohol a lot growing up, and I loved that. Not in like I'm an alcoholic way, but being around alcohol, I learned what alcohol was and I knew what it was and I knew the balance of life and I knew, oh, this is vodka versus this is wine and this is how those things will affect you. So that when I was growing up and going through those high school years and starting college and like alcohol became prevalent, it didn't scare me. I was knowledgeable and I knew what I was doing. And it's also another reason that I really thank my parents and I'm like grateful that they raised me in that way. I'm trying to think about my early years. I mean, there's nothing out of the ordinary, honestly. I was a pretty big, I don't want to say like teacher's pet kiss up in school, but I really was like very much a people pleaser and wanted to be the best and to have people think I was the best and be proud of me. So elementary and middle school, I was just like grind time, no stopping, class president, do all the activities, be in the school play, be in athletics, like to the max. Like, I don't understand how when we were little, we just did so many things and just didn't get tired. And now I can't get through a day of school without a nap. Um, bring back nap time to elementary school. That's all I'm saying. So, the early years were very, very normal. My parents did work 9 to 5s, so we didn't have a stay at home mom or people to like be with us all the time, but they always had someone with us and they kept us safe and we did our thing. And then really starting high school is when I remember my life and like starting to like ease into it and really really become who I am today. I started high school, and my first ever memory of high school is technically before it started. It was in July before school started. We had high school tryouts for the volleyball team, and I had been playing volleyball since as long as I could remember. My parents grew up playing in like a sixes friends league with all those aunts and uncles I already talked about. So I had grown up around volleyball, but I didn't really get into it until maybe sixth grade. So I played all through middle school and played club and whatnot, but high school was like the real time to get into it. I went to tryouts and I knew I was pretty good because I had been invited to like this summer away college camp, like with the team to go get better. And I was invited on the varsity team. So like the odds were pretty good of me making varsity, but it was also like, I don't know, I'm a freshman. This doesn't usually happen. I don't know what's going to happen. Whatever. And my first ever high school memory is that my brother, since my parents had to work 9 to 5s, Tanner, had to pick me up from high school tryouts. And I found out I had made the varsity team. And I hop in the car. I'm like, so freaking excited. I'm like, Tanner, I made the varsity team. First thing that happens, I don't think you should have made it. What? I got so mad at him. I was like, what do you mean I shouldn't have made it? Like, I worked my butt off to get here, da 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 da. And he tried to elaborate and was like, I just don't think you're going to get any playing time and I just want the best for you. Which, looking back, like, I do see how he could have thought that. And I think he really was looking out for me, but it was just so much to hear in a moment when I was so excited. And little did he know, I played every single game that season. So suck it, Tanner, if you're listening. But yeah, that was high school to start high school, which was really nice because it meant that playing volleyball, I went into high school, even though all my middle school friends had gone to a different school. I went in knowing all the volleyball girls. So I had friends in every grade, especially being on the varsity team. I had a lot of older friends, which was really nice. And then I also had two other girls that made two other girls that made the varsity team freshman year with me, freshmen. So we kind of like band together and we're like, okay, we can get through this together. We can do this. So it was all really awesome. I mean, freshman and sophomore year, you're kind of like growing into groups, especially me starting fresh, not knowing anyone going into this high school. It was really starting new. And obviously Tanner was there, but like I'm not really hanging out with my brother at school. That's like awkward. And we run in different crowds, folks. So we were not spending our days together. But yeah, freshman and sophomore year were really normal. I remember I was still kind of in a phase where I was trying to like kiss up and be a people pleaser and just like be to the max all of the time. But by the time I got to sophomore year, I like really struggled. I took one AP class in high school and it was world history, AP world. And I sucked. Like I think I maybe got like a 2 on the AP exam. And if you don't know, like it's out of 5. And if you need like a 3 or higher for it to count towards like a college course and excuse that. So it was like a waste of my time to study that hard. And given didn't really study, I mean that's why I sucked. But that's when I realized like I was doing too dang much. So the following years after that, I really took a step back and was like, I'm just here to graduate. I don't need to go crazy. I want to spend time with my friends. I want to appreciate my time. I just want to play volleyball, have fun. And on the volleyball side of things, like volleyball was always changing for me. I switched clubs my sophomore year to a new club that was like pretty well ranked. We were winning a lot of tournaments and having a lot of fun together. And then also throughout high school, my high school coaches changed 3 times in 4 years. And luckily, I had a really good experience with all of the coaches. It was never a bad coach that like really needed to get fired, in my opinion. And maybe that was just like, I don't want to say like I was stuck up, but that stuck up like, oh, she always makes varsity anyway, so she's not like looked upon that way. Because I do think probably girls that were on lower level teams could have had different experiences, and I want to acknowledge that. Anyways, volleyball in high school was just really fun. It was all of my core friends, especially going into sophomore year. Like there was a group of maybe 5 or 6 of us that were like besties, and it was just so much fun for me, and playing club with a couple of those girls too. Like, my life could not have been better. I think it's important to add too, like, I was not dating in high school. I was like, you guys are not worth my time. I'm not interested. I just want to like focus on this and get out of here, because I knew I was not staying in Colorado for college. I was like, I hate the cold. I want out of here. I just need like some time away, but I'll live here later on in life. So junior year came around, and that's when things really started to shift for me, I would say. I started getting more serious the summer before. I had gone on some tours to schools and didn't really know where I wanted to go, but I knew I wanted to go somewhere warm. So I had emailed some schools in Florida about playing volleyball for them, and then in California and Hawaii. And I remember I got invited to a camp to a college in Colorado for myself. Like, they wanted to recruit me, and I met a girl from California, the city I live in now, and we just hit it off. So then she came to visit me in Colorado, and I came out here, and then we decided to go to a camp at Fullerton College, which is a school near Disneyland out here. So I flew out here, and then I was actually looking. There was like multiple colleges all watching us play, even though it was like on Fullerton's campus. So I wasn't even looking at Fullerton College. But when I met the coaching staff, I just immediately was really, really interested. And it was like a community college and a lower level than I had originally expected to play at, which I think I'll get into at a later time, just like playing at different levels in college, and like the hype around D1, and like how I don't believe in that anymore, and how that thought process changed for me. But anyways, so going into my junior year, I already knew that I was going to Fullerton. Like, I'd already verbally committed, and you can't sign until your senior year, but I already like had verbally committed and was like, there's no going back now. And Fullerton has like, it's a community college, so everyone gets in. So I like didn't necessarily have to like freak out about my grades anymore, which was really nice. So going into junior year, I was much more lax. I was like just having fun playing volleyball, just getting through school. My friend group was still super duper strong. And that's when I started working. So I was like trying to get into lifeguarding. I got my license because I started school when I was young. So I didn't turn 16 until the start of my junior year. So I got my license and was able to start driving around with friends and whatnot. And I still think I was just like searching for approval from people. And I think especially from men at this time in my life, I was like looking for men to think like I was a hot commodity, when like I wasn't, to be completely honest. Like, I was mentally not all the way there, and I like was not putting an effort into like making myself better and like valuing who I am. So no shocker. I mean, I drew eyes, but like I was not deserving of being loved. And everyone's always deserving of love. I think I want to correct that. Like, I was not prepared to go into something with a man if it arose. I didn't need that in my life. So then when crap hits the fan is going into senior year of high school, my friend group just like fell apart. And I've done a lot of reflecting on it. And I was like, I did end up dating someone to start my senior year, and it just didn't work out between us, and we called it quits. Which is something like an aspect of that relationship that I'll talk on later in this worldly video I make now. But yeah, my friend group just really distanced themselves from me, and for a long time I really didn't understand why, and I felt like I drew the short end of the stick and didn't understand what I could do to deserve that, and it caused a lot of hard nights in my life. But looking back, it was truly such a big blessing, because I've formed such valuable, wonderful relationships since leaving that friend group. That makes me so grateful that I was able to move to California and just worry about myself and be on my own and not have any ties back to that old life I lived. But yeah, senior year was really hard. Senior year for me was also the year that COVID hit, so I didn't have a graduation, or I didn't finish that club season, or all of those things. But for me, it was kind of a blessing, because I had left all of that friend group and decided to like move forward in my own world. So I was really happy, honestly, when COVID hit, because I was like, okay, school's over. I just get to be with my family. I get to do what I want, and I just get to be with myself and like grow as a human. So then I went off to college and decided, here I am at Fullerton in California, SoCal, right next to Disneyland, super close to the beach. Like, do I want to reinvent myself? Like, no one knows me. I can do whatever I want. And I was like, no, I I don't think I want to reinvent myself. Like, I am who I am, and I want to find people who will just love me for who I am. And of course, there's room for growth, but I had always thought like I needed to change myself to be a better human and like change my core being because people weren't liking it. But I realized I was just in the wrong crowd, and I wanted to find the right crowd to support me as me. So I ended up at Fullerton, and my first year, once again, was just like draining and ridiculous. Like, I had a set of crazy, crazy roommates, and I could go into like freaking stories about like physical threats, verbal abuse. Like, I still have like all of these text messages probably like way down on my phone because I'm the worst at like emails, text messages, photos. Like, I don't delete anything, and I need to like clean out some space on my phone, but I just like don't prioritize it. Anyways, so freshman year was just absolutely wild. And we weren't playing volleyball because it was COVID. So we couldn't even get out of the house, and we couldn't like easily make friends, which I think also killed us. Is we're six new girls to college living in this house, and we can't leave it. It's our first time living on our own for any of us. So it was just really, really hard. Um, the one like glimmer of hope my freshman year was we played a beach season, which I'll come back to. Let's put a pin in that. But the real main glimmer of hope is that's when I met Callie, my now best friend. She was one of the six roommates, and we weren't originally sharing a room because we had a 3-bedroom apartment. So each girl, it was 2 girls to each room. And she wasn't my original like roommate, but she lived in the house. And then, shit hit the fan like I was talking about, and me and her ended up moving into each other's room, and we're roomies, and we just established our own little safe space, like in the craziness. And it was just like us two against the freaking world. And I genuinely would not have survived that season of my life without her. And she was the first person who was like, you are you, and I love you for you. And I can never repay her for that. Like, it was just such a blessing in my life at that time. So, anyways, second blessing of that year, which I put a pin in, was playing beach. We got to play like a limited beach season in the spring, and it was my first time ever playing beach volleyball. I had like grown up watching my parents play and like joked around, played 4s with them or 6s, but like college beach volleyball is like 2 people, just you guys, super competitive, like full matches, and it's just not something I had ever done. I was blessed to be on a great team with great coaches who supported me, and I finished that season. And my coach Megan came to me and said, Hannah, I know you're trying to go somewhere after these 2 years at Fullerton to finish your degree and play volleyball, and I think you should consider playing beach volleyball instead of indoor volleyball. There's a lot more scholarship to be handed out in beach volleyball, and I think you're just a stud. And I was like, wow, like that's actually really interesting because I loved beach volleyball. I could pass, I could set, I could hit, I could block, I could do everything. And you're touching the ball 50% of the time. It's not like 6s where you only touch it maybe once every 3 rallies. So immediately then in that moment, I was like, okay, Megan, I trust you, and I'm going for beach volleyball. And from there, it was just a blast. Sophomore year started, and there was some residual falling over from freshman year that kind of like snuck in at Fullerton my sophomore year. But me and Callie had moved into a new place. It was much calmer. We had a great indoor season. We were getting ready to start the spring, and Callie broke the saddest news to me that she was leaving for 18 months, and I was just heartbroken. But I was also at the same time, when you love someone so much and they're doing something so valuable to them that you're sad for like yourself, but you're so, so, so excited for them. That's exactly how I felt. I was like, this is what you're supposed to do, and this is perfect for you. And I know I need to send you off to do this, but like my heart hurts because my best friend is leaving me for 2 years. So Callie left in the spring, and honestly, I was just not prepared for it. I was like, I don't have a ton of friends here at Fullerton. Callie was like my person that supported me as me, and then like after that, it was like slim pickings. So I started sophomore year spring season, and maybe the 4th week of practice, I would say. Also over winter break that year, I got COVID like every person did over Christmas. That was just like the common, which was nice to spend time with my family, but couldn't go to Mexico, which sucked. Anyways, spring season started maybe 4 weeks in. If you hate medical things, this is like skip ahead 30 seconds moment. Emma, you're listening. I went up to block, and when I was coming down, blocking over the net, the wind was blowing at the beach that day, and so the net was blowing my direction, and I caught my elbow in the twine or like the ropes of the net, that go across. I think everyone's seen a volleyball net in their life. I caught my elbow, so my shoulder dislocated, and I ended up tearing my labrum and my rotator cuff. Which just it just sucked. Volleyball was what I knew since like 6th grade, and even before that, watching my parents, and to have that like snap in a moment was just the end of the world. And I did not know what I was going to do, and I didn't have Callie, and I didn't have my parents, and I didn't have a boyfriend, and I didn't have anyone to like support me through all of the hardship. So anyways, after that, kind of in the midst of all of that, I guess I should say, like this other glimmer of hope came into my life. His name is RJ, and he truly is one of my best friends, and I don't think I give him enough credit and like thank him enough for being in my life. But RJ, at first, I thought was like trying to be gross and flirt with me. He DM'd me and like congratulated me on a good game or something in the fall season, in the indoor season. And I thought he was just like another gross football, basketball, baseball boy. I was like, oh, don't talk to me, whatever. But I ended up responding because I was lonely. And then we just kept hanging out, and we would like go to his house and watch movies, and he'd sit like 2 cushions away from me, and I was just like so dumbfounded. I was like, oh my gosh, like he's not trying to like do anything ridiculous. He really just like thinks I'm cool and wants to hang out with me. Like no feelings attached. And I was like, this is awesome. So then RJ became like my person. And RJ had just gone through like a more, I don't want to say traumatic, but he hurt his shoulder in his basketball season pretty much like right before I hurt my shoulder. So, and his was like to a deeper extent. Like he had to have surgery, and I didn't have to have surgery, thank God. But I was able to like relate back to him, and we were just able to like kind of go through that together and talk through that together. And then also just like support one another through life, and like through not me not playing, him not playing, and like all of that like sucky athlete life of the injuries, whatnot. So yeah, I made it through sophomore year spring, but it was like really, really freaking sucky. Honestly, like sucky months, because I didn't have a ton of people, and I wasn't playing volleyball, and like living in California is expensive, so it just felt like such a waste. But anyways, throughout my sophomore year, I knew I was ready to move on, just like I talked about, like playing beach. So I had toured a couple schools, emailed a couple people, gone on a couple like visits to places, and like really like laid out my options, and decided I'd wanted to stay in California because I had a job working at Pro Play, which I think I'll get to in like another story time, because that's just like a story in itself, and that's like a blessing in my life. That's a volleyball club. I coach club teams and coach little ballers if they're watching. I knew I wanted to stay nearby so that I could keep working at that place. So there were 2 schools I had in mind, the school I'm at now and a different school. And when I found out I hurt my shoulder, I just have this huge memory of calling both of these coaches, or texting. I guess I texted because I was like a wreck, crying for like a week straight. Calling both of these coaches. One coach, my coach now, I called, and he was just the most supportive guy. He's like, you need soup? Do you need rides to the doctor's office? Like, what can we do for you? Can I pray for you? Like, how can we help you? Whatever. And I had met this guy like 2 times, maybe 2 times. And I had honestly kind of like done it out of like, oh, I'll just be nice and go tour this school. Like, I'm not really sure I want to go there, whatever. But like, he was just so nice to me, and it just like really was what I needed in that moment when I was really struggling. And then I called or texted this other school that I had been like really close to committing to. Actually, it was like my number one. Like I really thought I wanted to go there. And the coach, she was not disrespectful at all. Don't catch that wrong. She was not mean. She was just much more business, and she was like, let me know what the x-rays and MRIs say. And meant that in like a tone of like, we'll see where we can take you as a team. Like, we don't know if we can have you if you're an injured person. And my heart just like broke. And I knew in that moment that I needed to go to my current school, Vanguard University, because not only was it a great school and a great academic program, and they had teaching, which is what I'm going into, and they were just a great atmosphere, but like when it comes to volleyball, it's hard to find like solid coaches that can be mentors in your life. And I looked at this coach I have now, and I was like, wow, he doesn't only want me as an athlete, like he wants me as a human. And that is so hard to find, because it was so up in the air in that moment. of like, will Hannah ever play volleyball again? What's the best choice? Will she have surgery? Will she be out for 2 years? Will she be out for 1 year? Will she come back next season and ball out? Like, nobody knew what happened, but all I knew is that Chris, from the bottom of his heart, still just wanted me and loved me for me, and here I am. So last year was my first year at Vanguard, and it was an awesome first year. I mean, I showed up a little nervous because this school is a Christian school, which is like a whole big freaking, like, maybe like 2 week podcast about religion in my life, because I haven't really talked about it a ton. And it's just not necessarily perfectly my scene. So I was really nervous getting into it, but the team, just like Chris, was just so welcoming. And I was just like super excited to be there with them and happy to be in attendance. So the year goes on. I don't have like a ton of vivid memories. I do remember, since my birthday's at the beginning of the school year, I was like, do I invite people to my birthday party? Like, I don't really know these new girls. Like, I don't want my birthday to suck because like they're kind of weird, or like because they think I'm weird and they're not nice to me. But I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna invite everyone. So I invited all the girls to my birthday, and my now other best friend Mads walked in at my birthday, and she just walks up to me. She's like, I think we're gonna get along. And I was like, oh, okay. And that was like something my heart really needed to hear, because I hadn't necessarily established like great friendships at Vanguard yet, because we were only like 2 weeks into the season, into the school year. So when she kind of just like opened up that conversation for us, I was blessed in so many ways. So yeah, the fall kind of flew by. Like, in between classes, I spent a lot of time in my teammates' dorm rooms because I lived off campus in an apartment. My apartment sucked, by the way. I lived with these two guys and another girl, and the boys are just freaking nasty. Make sure when you find a man or someone to live with that they know how to do dishes, because mine did not. They weren't my boyfriends. They were just like roommates, but they still didn't know how to do the dishes. So make sure you check in on that. Yeah, the fall kind of flew by. It was nothing crazy. I was kind of traveling back and forth to Indiana to see Sam, and I had met Sam the summer before I came to Vanguard. So we've only been together for a year and a half now, and Sam's a huge part of my life, and he's the love of my life, and I can't wait to marry him one day. And like, I'm so thankful for him, but I want to dedicate like a whole little podcast to him and how awesome he is, maybe even collab and bring him on for us. So I'm not going to go into our story a ton today. But yeah, the fall was fine, and then the spring started, and that's kind of when, nowhere, I wouldn't say anywhere near like socially as hard as freshman year was, because I had like a community, but just like in my head, probably the second semester at Vanguard was so hard for me, mainly because although I had my girls and I had this team in front of me, there was a lot going on in Colorado. So I was really struggling. And it felt like, even though I loved volleyball, I couldn't give my all to it because I was so focused on all of the other crappy things going on in my life. Like, people at home were getting sick, a couple of people at home died. We had like literally like a court case going on at home for a family member. And it was like just so much mentally that was draining, to then have to like go show up and practice for 2 hours at 6:30 in the morning. I was like, I cannot do this. My cup is too full, because I would go to practice and I would immediately go straight to my classes until 3 p.m. And then at 3 p.m., I had to drive all the way up to Fullerton because I kept that job, and work for 4 hours. So I'd get home at 10:30, go to sleep by 11:30, and wake up at 5:30 the next day. And it was like a cycle. And I'm type A. Like, I love routine. I love having a schedule. I love knowing what's going on. But it was draining. Like, it killed me. And I was having such a hard time, and had so many meetings with Chris where I was just like, I don't know if I can carry on. And like, I love volleyball. I haven't lost my love for volleyball, but I can't love it if there's not room for me to love it in my life right now. So in the spring, we went to Florida. That's where nationals are for my division, for our beach volleyball division. And we just had the most miraculous week, and we won the national championship. I'll show you guys my ring at some point. And I'll get more into that, because that was just the best week really of my life. And it was also like filled with like crazy stories. Oh my gosh, we lived in like an insane asylum. It felt like, or like a psych ward maybe. But I'll get to that at some point throughout the year. But yeah, we won the natty. And even though we won the natty and you were like, oh my gosh, we're the best team in the freaking nation, we're awesome, it was still just kind of like okay, we did it. Like, thank God the season's over. I can like take a breath now. And I was still joyful, but I was like, okay, best way to go out. I'm done now. Time to move on. So I met with Chris after that and I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. Like, I have so much in my life that I'm focused on and worried about and need to do. And volleyball can't be it because my cup is full. I have school and work and friendships and a life that I need to pursue. And that fills my cup. And there's not enough room for volleyball in that cup. So I gave it up. I called it a day. I was like, I won the natty. I'm out. Peace. Like, have peace and love. Have fun without me. So yeah, normal summer. Me and Sam lived in Colorado. Went back home. Had a great time. Road trip with our friends Mads, of course, you guys know now, and her boyfriend Oliver. Great summer. I worked at Vasa Fitness. I literally walked out, not fired. I quit on the job and walked out. Another crazy story time for another day because I've already been talking for so dang long. Where was I going? Oh yeah, so I came back this year and it was like finally the year where I was like, okay, I have awesome roommates. I have a room all to myself for the first time in college. Like, I'm just gonna have so much fun. And I did. I had a ton of fun my spring semester. Like, the roommates I put myself with, like, I knew they'd give me a fun time. And like, but they were also just good people, so it wasn't like party house, you know? I had an awesome first semester, but it didn't feel fulfilled because I wasn't with like my best friends. I made friends and I had fun people to hang out with, but all my friends were busy playing volleyball and I wasn't with them. So I felt a little lonely. But I was still very grateful to be where I was at because I was able to take like a bunch of units to ensure that I graduate this May. And I was enjoying having like a little more peace. And I was able to spend a lot of time in the classroom actually teaching this past fall semester, which I was also super happy to do because it just is like my dream career. And I'm so happy to freaking teach. But plans changed. Shocker. I think I literally said at the beginning of the vlog, like, no shocker, I'm playing beach volleyball again. Um, I went to Wise Guys, which is like Vanguard Beach Volleyball's freaking spot. If you live in California and haven't had Wise Guys, go give it a try. Best pizza of your life. And I went with Mads and her roommate Emma. And Emma was my partner last beach season. And Emma's really also a great friend of mine, just a great bubbly human that I can really fall back on and rely on both in friendship and in volleyball. So us three went out to dinner, and Emma always has bugged me throughout the fall. Like, would you ever come back? Like, would you ever think about it? Da-da-da. And I'd always turned her down. But this time, like, I felt a little push. And I don't want to say from God, but I just felt, just in my heart, I was like, maybe. I don't know. Like, maybe I would come back. And every time it was just like immediately, like, no, I'm not coming back. I don't want to. But this time, like, something in my heart was like, I don't know. Like, I could, maybe. But long story short, and maybe if you guys are interested, like, we could get into the decision to come back a little more at some point. But long story short, we like compared the schedules between like my coaching tournaments and then playing tournaments at Vanguard. And I had a meeting with my coach Chris, and of course, like, the sweetest man. Like, we sat through it, we prayed through it, we talked through like, is this a passion or is this just now that I have free time? I like could consider coming back because one of the other major factors of me coming back was that I opened up my class schedule quite a bit. There was a slight error on Vanguard's end with my scheduling of classes to where now this coming spring semester, I'm taking only 12 units and only one in-person class. So I have a lot more free time on my hands. So instead of like block, busy, it's like go to practice and then have the whole afternoon to adjust around online classes or get grocery shopping done or just like relax and then go to work. So I have that like whole chunk of free time to adjust my life around now. But anyways, I came back and I'm so stinking happy to be here. Tomorrow, the 8th, is our first day of practice, also first day back at school. Blech. First day back at practice, and I'm excited to get back into it. You guys will see. We can talk about it. It's gonna be awesome. I'm just excited to like move my body again too. I've obviously worked out since being retired, but I haven't moved a ton, and I'm excited to get back out on the sand and like feel that again and like get out of breath and all of those things. But yeah, I think that leads us to today. I had a great winter break and I decided to start this, which I talked about at the beginning. And truly, I might be talking to myself, and I am okay with that because this is something I can look back at and just love and admire about myself and take as motivation to keep going and see where my life was and know how far I've come. And I'm excited to look back and see all the results of what I've talked about now and what I'm working towards now. So, thank you guys so much for listening to episode 1 of the audio here on YouTube. I linked my Instagram at the end, so if you want to be friends, come be my friend and follow me on Instagram. If you don't, that's okay too. And I think, I don't know, everyone always says like and subscribe, but only like and subscribe if you want. Like, I want the real homies out here, not like the, oh, this might be cool, like whatever, or just like fake homies. Only the real ones, even if that means there's only 10 of us. We're getting the real homies out here. Anyways, thanks for listening to the audio. I am freaking Hannah Wilms. I sound like a newscaster, and thank you so much for listening.